Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Tommy Dizzlemits, as promised, with the Daily Dizzle Weekend Update for Saturday, January 8th and Sunday, January 9th, 2010. This will probably go up around midnight or so on Sunday. So, as promised, we will have our wild card check-in. Right now, we are keeping up with the Seahawks and the Saints. We will also have the Jets and the Colts check-in later. In the next, in like 10 minutes now, but in real time it'll probably be more like a couple hours because the game hasn't even started yet. Regardless, though, we will also have box office statistics for Friday. True Grit and Little Fockers are still clawing their way at each other. Who was number one this weekend? We will figure that out. All right, now, of course, we've got these Saints from New Orleans trying to defend their Super Bowl championship against the Seattle Seahawks. They did a good start to the game, making it a 10-0 lead within like 2 minutes of the game. But unfortunately for them, the Seahawks did come back. They eventually scored 17 unanswered points during the second half. At the end of the second half, they were up by 7, pulling ahead. It was 24-17 with them in the lead. The Saints got the ball with only like a minute left on the clock, and they were still able to get a field goal. So coming out of the half, it is 24-20. I'm happy with that because I have picked the Seahawks. And it's funny as hell because I was expecting this game to suck like everyone else did, but I knew as soon as the media was labeling it the least interesting game of the weekend that it was going to be one of the best played games, and it surely isn't disappointing now. So I'm going to get some more beers in me, and we're going to let the game play out a little bit more, and I'm probably going to start hating Drew Brees in the next 20 minutes or so when the Saints finally come back and put my wild card picks to a disastrous start. I kind of do hope that I blow my pick for this game, because if I do, then I don't have to care about the Colts winning, because they're also my pick, because I'd rather see the Jets go on. Go Jets! I do have to say, especially in the postseason, but any time in football, it's a good day when you can have a game on between two teams that you don't really have a preference either way, and it ends up being a good game. That's what this game continues to be into the fourth quarter. Obviously, the Saints starting to come back a little bit more. It is now a 7-point game, 34-27. Saints might be able to pull ahead. I'm still hoping that they won't. Hoping that they won't. If you're in the future and you already know, then this is just going to be more entertaining when they do come back. But I'm going to keep pressing with the Seahawks a little bit longer because I'm going to pretend that I have confidence in them. The New Orleans Saints were hoping to make it 2 Super Bowls in a row. Unfortunately, they came up a little bit short. They were only down by 4 points in the last couple of minutes of play of the fourth quarter. It was 34-30. Unfortunately for them, Marshawn Lynch ended up making one of the most epic touchdown returns ever, avoiding 7 or 8 tackles where the guys were right there, had their hands on him, and he would just grab them and chuck them on his way to the end zone. Honestly, it was one of the most impressive returns ever. And not only was it an impressive return, but it was a history-making return, as that was what put the Seahawks on top. The Saints were able to score again in the last couple minutes of play, but it was not enough to get ahead of the Seahawks. So the Saints have become the first ever defending Super Bowl champions to be up 10 points in a postseason game the next year and get eliminated as a result. Man, Saints making history this year for all the wrong reasons. Dizzlemits is now 1-1 on wildcard predictions. Now, we're going to wait and see if my hatred for Peyton is enough to, power him to victory tonight over the Jets. In the meantime, though, we're going to jump into the Friday box office numbers. Of course, True Grit and Little Fockers have been fighting for a little bit at the top of the box office over the holidays. Much like last year where Avatar repeated for a couple weeks, it's the same business here where those two are still on top. So after 2 weekends of holding the number 2 spot, it looks like True Grit might actually be able to retain the number 1 spot for the weekend as a whole. It was number 1 on Friday, which was the same case as last week. Unfortunately, last weekend, Little Fockers ended up coming back in the lead for the rest of the weekend. True Grit has been on top since Monday, though. On Friday, it made just under $4.5 million, which puts it somewhere in the $15 million range for the weekend. Little Fockers made about the same $4.2 million for the day, but it'll put it probably in the $13 or $14 million range, right around the same area as True Grit. Opening at number 3, Season of the Witch shows that Nick Cage is a little bit more of a draw than I expected. It made $3.7 million for the day alone on Friday, which means it'll probably make or maybe around $10 million for the weekend, which is a time and a half what I predicted it to be. So congratulations, Nick Cage, on starting to get some of your credibility back at the box office. Number 4 was Tron Legacy, making $2.7 million for the day. Sits at $140 million altogether, so it's a lot of money. Number 5, Country Strong, making just under $2.6 million for the day on Friday. That puts it at around $7.5 million for the weekend, which is right about where I guessed. So, yeah, I can actually predict shit. Ignore that. Number 6, Black Swan, made $2.4 million for the day on Friday. Just behind it, The Fighter made $2.1 million, so Black Swan is starting to outpace The Fighter, though they're both successes. Number 8, The King's Speech, rounds out the Oscar contenders with $1.76 million for the day, sitting at $28 million altogether. So the Weinstein Company is actually making some money for once. Number 9, we've got Yogi Bear with $1.3 million. It sits at north of $70 million altogether, so it's only within $10 million of making back its budget altogether. Rounding out the top 10, we've got The Tourist with $1.2 million. The only other 3 movies to make in the 7-figure range for the day on Friday. We had The Chronicles of Narnia 3 and Tangled and Gulliver's Travels, all making over $1.1 million for the day. So the family movies seem to be the ones that are all hanging on. There's at least 2 other movies you can expect to cross the $1 million threshold, at least for the weekend, as Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and How Do You Know both make over $600,000 for the day, so it should put it just shy, both of those at just shy of $2 million for the weekend altogether. Of course, on Monday we will have the estimates for the weekend, and maybe even Tuesday have the comparisons to the actuals once they come in. Though sometimes by the time we get to them, the actuals are in. So one way or another, you'll have the up-to-date information on how the rest of the weekend goes at the movies. Though definitely a far cry from last year when Avatar was still only a couple weeks old and only about $200 million into its $750 million box office run. So at halftime for the Colts and the Jets showing that they might not have their A game on tonight and might be done for the season after tonight. They're not even on the board at this point. Though the Colts, despite the fact that they're ahead, are only up by 7. And Peyton manages one way or another to suck tonight. Though my highlight so far of the game, favorite moment, was definitely when he thought he was going to get sacked on one of the tight plays. He just throws himself to the ground. So anyone who wants to take advantage of that fact or keep it as a reference point, Peyton Manning, if he knows that he's going to have to go down and take one, he will go down one way or another. So if there's anything to be learned tonight from the Jets-Colts wildcard match, it is that Peyton Manning will continue to spite me no matter what I do to try and get on the opposite side of him. Colts were ahead coming out of the half. The Jets came back with a touchdown in the third quarter. Colts were still ahead with a field goal. It was the fact that they didn't get the extra point on the touchdown that really killed them in the fourth quarter, and the fact that the Jets went for 10 points in that same quarter, ending the game with one of the most perfect field goals ever. I'm happy, being a New Yorker, that they've gone on, but pissed that Peyton is a douche, regardless. So, yeah, that's the check-in from the Daily Dizzle Weekend Update. Obviously, there's more wildcard games tomorrow, so we'll have the full coverage on those on Monday. All the box office news and all sorts of the latest crazy movie news, including one of the Farrelly brothers coming out and saying that the Three Stooges rumors may not be what they seem. So be sure to check us out on Monday. If you haven't seen all the other Daily Dizzles, you can go ahead and catch up since tomorrow's an off day. You shouldn't have anything to do other than watch us. So check out the Daily Dizzles, check out some of our original music videos that we've got, some good movies highlighted from Ghostbusters to Batman, and just be sure to make time with us Monday. So thank you for joining us as always. I am Tommy Dizzlemits on behalf of the Daily Dizzle Weekend Update. We will see you on Monday.